On February the 24th, 2020, a 911 operator answers a rather startling call from a 42-year-old Florida woman by the name of Sarah Boone.
911, what is the location of your emergency?
4748 France Court, apartment 3.
4748, what's the street name?
France, Frantz.
And the apartment number?
3.
Is this a police or medical?
My boyfriend is dead.
Okay, send the line for the fire department. Do not hang up.
Okay, 4748 France, correct?
Correct.
All right, correct. Now tell me exactly what happened there.
My boyfriend and I were playing last night, and I put him in his case and we were playing. And like kind of hide and seek kind of thing. So I fell asleep, and I woke up, and he was dead in the suitcase, so I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
Right, okay, what's the apartment number?
3.
I don't know.
Apartment 3?
Yes, like he has like blood coming out of his mouth, and I don't know if like he had like an aneurysm or what happened.
Right, okay, listen, we're getting help out there too. All right, okay.
No way! This woman's boyfriend, who I happen to know is 42-year-old Jorge Torres, has died of suffocation after getting into a suitcase in a game of hide and seek with his girlfriend the night before. That is seriously crazy. How do you let that happen? I don't know, were they each under the influence? However it happened, it can only have been a devastatingly unfortunate accident. Can't it? What was revealed in court about the relationship between Sarah Boone and Jorge Torres, including what unravelled on the night of Jorge's murder, left everyone everywhere overwhelmingly shocked and severely confused, and it was all because Jorge's very murder was 1,000,000% preventable, Sarah herself needing to do nothing more than to dislodge the paper clip that she had used to hold the suitcase zip together. Now viewer, if I've got you hooked on the story so far, do subscribe, give the video a like, drop a comment when you're ready and donate. Hit the thanks button below, I'll appreciate you. In 2018, a year and a half into their relationship, Sarah and Jorge were at a bar together and Sarah asked an unknown male for a cigarette. Jorge got upset when he saw his girlfriend talking to another man, so he left the bar. The couple both went back to their apartment and began fighting. When police arrived, whoever had actually called them, Boone claimed that Torres dragged her upstairs and then kicked her in the right eye. Torres claimed that he was going upstairs to get away from Sarah when she started strangling him and he attempted to kick her away from him, and that's when he may have kicked her in the eye. Neither was willing to write a formal statement about the incident and both refused medical treatment. In line with this, they were both released without charge after the police took the decision to arrest them both when they found themselves unable to determine which of the two had been the primary aggressor. On June the 15th, 2019, Jorge became upset that Sarah was again talking to another man, so he flung her off the bed and then beat her up. Sarah told the police officer who attended, Sarah having been the one, presumably, to have called the police on this occasion, that Jorge said, quote, "You're going to die," unquote. Jorge was arrested and released the following day with an order to have no contact with Sarah. But then, on June the 18th, Jorge went to Sarah's apartment while Sarah was upstairs and he took a credit card of hers and then left. The following morning, Sarah called the police to report the incident. The officer stated in his report that Sarah claimed that she didn't invite Jorge in, but that she didn't deny him access either. Once again, Sarah chose not to make a formal statement against her boyfriend because she didn't want to get him arrested, which makes us wonder why the fuck she called the police in the first place. Anyway, despite Sarah's having since stopped cooperating with the police, the officer in question tried to locate Jorge, first at his parents' house and then at the Ace hardware store where he was employed, but came away from both places empty-handed, so to speak, because remember, Jorge was ordered not to have any contact with Sarah. That same afternoon though, the officer returned to Sarah's apartment where the couple were and where they had once again been arguing. Jorge was arrested and sent to jail, only to be released, once again, without charge. The evening of the 23rd of February 2020, however, gave birth to an incident that would alter, shall we say, the relationship between the couple forever. According to Sarah, she and her boyfriend were drinking wine and playing hide and seek. Side note, while playing hide and seek is per se a harmless activity, how many fucking adults play such a babyish game, however much they might have had to drink? End of side note. Sarah claimed that she first hid in the upstairs shower, but that Jorge never came up and found her. As such, Sarah went back downstairs and got Jorge to see how funny it would apparently be if he got into a suitcase. Once Jorge, who, as I say, had rapidly latched on to Sarah's idea that climbing into the suitcase would be a hilarious moment for him and his girlfriend to enjoy, willingly stepped into the suitcase and then folded himself all the way in. His girlfriend found, as I mentioned earlier, that she had to use a paper clip to zip the suitcase up because the zip was broken. Before you ask, I don't know exactly what Sarah did with the paper clip to get it to make the zip work. I've never tried that trick myself. Anyway, all Sarah could remember after this point, she said, frustratingly enough, was passing out on her bed and then waking up the next morning to find that Jorge wasn't in bed with her. Her instinctive thought was that he was on the computer downstairs. However, after not hearing him downstairs or anywhere in their home while she initially remained upstairs, she went downstairs, caught sight of the suitcase and remembered what, or rather who, was in it. The next thing she knew, she was on the phone in a panic. 911 though wasn't who she was calling to report that her boyfriend, who had spent the last 11 hours locked in a suitcase, had turned purple and was completely unresponsive. In my country, the UK, we call that being dead. Sarah, of course, having since opened the suitcase and found Jorge in the said state. It was her ex-husband. Minutes later, having been advised by her ex-husband to call 911 and having realised as such that her husband wasn't, as she seems to have hoped, able to wave a magic wand and bring Jorge back to life, Sarah made her call to the emergency services.
911, what is the location of your emergency?
4748 France Court, apartment 3.
4748, what's the street name?
France, Frantz.
And the apartment number?
3.
Is this a police or medical?
My boyfriend is dead.
Okay, send the line for the fire department. Do not hang up.
Okay, 4748 France, correct?
Correct.
Alright, great. Now tell me exactly what happened there.
My boyfriend and I were playing last night, and I put him in his case and we were playing. And like kind of hide and seek kind of thing. So I fell asleep and I woke up and he was dead in the suitcase, so I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
Right, okay, what's your apartment number?
3.
I don't know.
Apartment 3?
Yes, like he had like blood coming out of his mouth, and I don't know if like he had like an aneurysm or what happened.
Right, okay, alright, okay, listen, we're getting help out there too. Alright, okay. Okay,
Right now?
Okay, yeah, man, listen, we're on our way out there. You're at 407-716-8684. Okay, is he hanging from somewhere or what, ma'am?
No, I pulled him out of the suitcase. I tried giving him CPR.
Okay, so he was in a suitcase?
Yes, and I fell asleep.
Okay, how old is the boyfriend, ma'am? 42-year-old male. All right. Okay, we're sending help out there. Sheriff's officer on the way out there?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, okay. All right, listen to me. Okay, I just need to confirm this one. All right, I understand. I just need to confirm this. Is he awake at all? Is he conscious at all?
No, he's purple.
Is he breathing?
No.
All right. I need you to get him on the floor, flat on his back for me, okay?
I did. I tried giving him CPR.
All right.
Honestly, how calm and composed the woman sounds in reporting that she's just found her boyfriend dead and that it has happened as a result of apparently innocent horseplay. You'd think she basically never had any feelings for him. Yeah, as a matter of fact, you might even think, possibly, that not only did she taunt him when he protested that he couldn't breathe, in case any such thing actually happened, she filmed her act of taunting him and refusing to let him out of the suitcase as well.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
For everything you've done to me.
Sarah.
Fuck you.
Sarah.
Fuck you.
Sarah.
Stupid.
Sarah.
That's my name. Don't wear it up.
Sarah. I can't fucking breathe, babe. Seriously.
Yeah, that's when you do when you choke me.
Sarah. 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 Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
That's on you.
Sarah, I can't breathe.
It's on you.
Sarah.
Real or ransom. Might want to get video for it extra. Because I got this.
Sarah.
Real or ransom.
Sarah. Sarah, I can't breathe, babe.
Oh. That's what I feel like when you ching on me.
Sarah.
Fuck you!
Fucking breathe, Sarah.
Yeah. You should probably shut the fuck up.
Sarah.
After Sarah was charged with second-degree murder, as she promptly was when police seized her phone and discovered this video recording on it, police questioned her about the black eye that Jorge had at the time of his death, as well as the bruises, cuts and abrasions that he had all around his head, plus on his back and on his hands. These were all indications of blunt force trauma. Sarah, however, claimed that she and Jorge hadn't been in any way violent towards one another before Jorge climbed into the suitcase. A neighbour, though, reported hearing a loud noise coming from the couple's home at the time in question, which sounded to him like someone or something falling down the stairs. Either way, this particular mystery was never explained. What is massively disturbing, though, is that while police were investigating Sarah and what she did to her boyfriend, they found that Sarah had previously been investigated for zipping someone else up in a suitcase. At one point, you see, Sarah had posted a picture on her Facebook page of a child being shut in a suitcase, which was then zipped shut by Sarah. Both the police and the CPS looked into the matter when it happened, which was 4 years before Jorge's own adventure inside a suitcase that Sarah had set up, and concluded that it was a consensual act. The child wanted, for whatever reason, to have a picture of himself shut in a suitcase. Totally crazy, and no right-minded person, especially not an adult, would have agreed to facilitate one such act as far as I'm concerned. But at least A, the child was fine, and B, the act was at the child's own behest. In December 2024, after a 5-year court process, including all of 9 lawyers for Sarah, plus Sarah's rejecting of a 15-year plea deal, which absolutely everyone except Sarah thought was the craziest and stupidest decision that Sarah could have made, Sarah was sentenced to life in prison, and it serves her the fuck right. Alright, Jorge was clearly a shit of a boyfriend, but Sarah's act against him was wholly unjustified. It wasn't self-defence, for instance, since by Sarah's own account, and by the fact that Jorge was last seen locked in a suitcase, at the point in question, Jorge posed no imminent threat to Sarah's life. If this video has gripped you, I recommend you to watch this one next. I'll meet you there. On the 1st of December 2018, the night before her 22nd birthday, Grace Millane, who came from Essex, England, set up a Tinder date. The following day, Grace failed to answer any of the many birthday wishes that came from her family and friends. At the time of her Tinder date, Grace had been backpacking across New Zealand. By the morning after her date, she still hadn't returned to her hotel. Shortly after Grace was officially announced as a missing person, a man named Jesse Shane Kempson was summoned to a police station for questioning. Kempson was none other than Grace's Tinder date, but it turns out that he shouldn't even have been walking the streets. Now viewer, if I've got you hooked on the story so far, do subscribe, give the video a like, drop a comment when you're ready, and donate. Hit the thanks button below, I'll appreciate you. Jesse Shane Kempson was born on the 28th of December 1991 in Lower Hutt, New Zealand. After his parents split up, Kempson was raised for a while by his grandparents. In 2011, after spending some time in Australia with his mother, Kempson returned to Wellington, where he'd also done some of his schooling prior. At this point, when Kempson was 19, the impact of the, quote, various traumatic experiences, unquote, that Kempson had as yet lived, but whose details aren't publicly known, began, arguably, to unravel. One of Kempson's former landlords reports that Kempson claimed to be a professional softball player who'd been freshly signed up by New Zealand's national softball team, the Black Sox. On falling into arrears, Kempson would, relates the landlord, forever tell him, "Oh yeah, my contract money's coming, my payments will come then." Black Sox told the landlord that they hadn't even heard of Kempson. The landlord never saw a penny of the $700 that Kempson owed him when he subsequently did a runner. Kempson scarpered when his landlord told him that his cover was blown. Kempson next told people that he had a bachelor's degree in international law and came from a family of millionaires who were looking to buy a top restaurant in Auckland's Viaduct Harbour. His millionaire family owned a chain of restaurants in Sydney, Australia, he claimed. It was this very story, in fact, that he told the ladies who were living in the next flat share that he joined. But the thing is, one of the ladies knew a restaurant that Kempson claimed that his family was about to buy. She knew the restaurant owners, in fact, and she knew that they weren't selling. And she actually went to that restaurant one day and found Kempson working behind the bar. And the second he saw her, he ran out of the restaurant and never went back to work. I can't tell you what happened when Kempson subsequently got back to the flat and came face to face with that flatmate of his again. What I can tell you, however, is that when Kempson moved out of his flat share in Auckland, his 3 flatmates, all professional young women, were massively relieved. Having initially behaved with charm and warmth, Kempson had shown his true colours as a pathological liar and a serial fantasist. Kempson claimed to be an All Blacks rugby star, an oil executive and a gang member. He said he had cancer and that his parents were dead. His own stepbrother later affirmed that Kempson would lie for nothing and then keep lying until there was no way out, and then break down into tears and run off. I believe that, for the most part, Kempson wanted to be seen and respected as a success. Even so, as a non-expert, I can't answer why Kempson told lies about his job and his family background that could so easily be uncovered. I personally see his endless lying as an indication of profound immaturity on his part. Young children often tell tales to impress their peers. I also think that he believed that he could, in the event that any of his lies were exposed, either bluff his way out of the situation by telling new lies, or just afford not to care if he couldn't. This includes the scenario of murder and rape. Only Grace wasn't who Kempson raped. 8 months before his date with Grace, Kempson had a date with a young British tourist. When he forced himself on her, he warned her, quote, "If you don't do this, I will kill you and I will kill your family, and you know I will," unquote. Also before meeting Grace, Kempson had a girlfriend who would hold knives to her throat, choke her and force her to perform sexual acts. He also stole $10,000 from her. For a total of 9 charges against these 2 women, Kempson was handed an 11.5-year prison sentence. But that only happened after Grace's murder. In the course of her date with Kempson, Grace messaged a friend of hers back home to say, "I click with him so well, he's an oil manager, he lives in a hotel." Without realising it, Grace was sending this message either before or after Kempson searched her bag, which she left behind when, at one point, she went to the toilet. Grace, of course, also didn't know that her date was no oil professional. Kempson had been sacked from his job in telesales, the last in a string of jobs, the very day of his date with Grace. In his initial police interrogation, Kempson appears to have tried to present himself not only as honest, but also as somewhat vulnerable. He gave the impression that possibly finding himself catfished by Grace would have made him feel threatened.
So have you heard of catfish? No. So catfishing is where someone uses your profile or uses your photos and pretends to be you and then meets and you're a completely different person.
Right.
And it's on Tinder, it's all about the way you look. And so if they use more endearing photos, you're more likely to swipe for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does meeting in a public place sort of protect you from meeting someone who's not as good looking as...
Well, there's security there. So if she wasn't who she said she was, at least in my mind I'd feel safe.
In lying to the police that he and Grace had parted ways at the end of their date, Kempson again suggested himself as wary and frightened of any harm.
You cross over and then you've parted company at around about 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And then you walk towards Queen Street.
Yeah. And she walks towards space. Yeah, that's us.
Down there?
Yeah. So she's going that way and I'm going across the street. I go down Queen Street. I go down Victoria Street, straight down to the bottom, and then hang a left, and I head towards the viaduct.
You've kind of walked in a bit of a funny direction if you were planning to go to the viaduct. Is there a particular reason you were going to do that?
I feel safer down that way.
Kempson was once again spinning a web of lies that he knew both could and most likely would be easily unspun. The day after killing Jesse at his apartment at City Life Hotel, he even looked up at the CCTV camera in the lift. The camera had caught him and Grace when, after their date, the two took the lift to Kempson's floor. Kempson lived at the place and had, I believe, seen those cameras again and again. He had to know, I believe, that the camera had captured him with Grace. The Tinder date that Kempson went on the day after murdering Grace didn't go as well as Kempson's date with Grace. Kempson acted nervously and related confusing and contradictory information about himself to the woman on the date. At one point he mentioned that the police were looking for a body in the Waitakere Ranges, that's a mountain range with nearby woodland. He also stated that he knew someone who had accidentally killed a woman during rough sex. Unsurprisingly, the woman declined Kempson's subsequent invitation to go back to his with him. Before that date, as CCTV footage soon revealed to police, Kempson had been to buy a suitcase and cleaning products. After his new Tinder date, Kempson went to buy a carpet cleaning machine, which, he told the staff at the hotel where he was living, which was being paid for by state benefits, was to clean red wine stains. The next day, Kempson went out to buy a shovel, and with this, he drove his rental car, which contained the suitcase in which he'd since put Grace's body, to the Waitakere Ranges. 2 hours later, he was seen power washing his rented car before returning it. The substance luminol showed up the blood in the carpets in Kempson's apartment that Kempson's prior vigorous cleaning had rendered invisible to the naked eye. It was, of course, the CCTV footage that earned police both their search warrant for Kempson's home and the right to arrest Kempson for murder in the first place, as they since had. When they came for him at City Life Hotel, they were rapidly able to catch up with him when, after spotting them, he took flight. In Kempson's second police interview, there was none of the casualness and confidence that Kempson had shown in his previous police interrogation. He'd already proven to the police that he was a liar. I don't know though if they were ready for his story that he had accidentally strangled Grace to death during sex after she requested him to squeeze her neck with his 2 hands.
Tell me what happened last Saturday.
She started talking to me about 50 Shades of Grey. We started having sex. At first it was just normal, and then she asked me if we could get into bondage, having, I guess, more violent sex. We ended up on the floor, and then she told me to hold her throat. So I went into the shower, and then all I remember is falling asleep in the shower. I need to stop. I need to go.
Kempson then claimed that the actions that he performed on realising that Grace was dead sprang from panic. If Grace's death really was an accident, why didn't Kempson call an ambulance or notify any other relevant parties? While arguably offensive, if nothing else, the internet searches that Kempson made in the minutes after Grace's death may not, in and of themselves, have incriminated him. Hottest fires, flesh-eating birds, and the Waitakere Ranges, the place where, 3 days after killing Grace, Kempson dumped her body, were amongst Kempson's online searches. So was hardcore porn. Even some of the other things that Kempson did, again in the first few minutes after he killed Grace, didn't necessarily prove that he had deliberately killed her. In the case of some of the intimate photos of Grace that Kempson took shortly after killing her, Kempson had moved Grace's body into the position in which he wanted her for the picture. Also, you may recall that less than 24 hours after killing Grace, Kempson went on another Tinder date. To my knowledge, Kempson was convicted of murdering Grace rather than of any lesser charge because of what Grace's autopsy revealed.
The defence case is that this is not a murder. And that's still what I say to you now, nothing has changed. It was an accidental death that took place in the context of sexual activities that, if done incorrectly by inexperienced and or intoxicated people, can go wrong.
In this case, to have killed Grace Millane, the defendant, gentleman over here at the back behind me, had to have had her under his grip, suffocating her, strangling her is probably the correct term, for a total of 5 to 10 minutes. At some point of which she lost consciousness and would have become under his hand hold, unconscious and limp and lifeless, and he had to carry on. And if that's not reckless murder in this country, ladies and gentlemen, somebody will have to explain to me what is.
In keeping with his unrepentant and deluded nature, Kempson not only showed no remorse at any point for murdering Grace, but also protested his conviction.
You're so full of shit. You have no reason to convict me. You're full of shit.
Just before this, the judge, Justice Simon Moore, affirmed that a report into Kempson's childhood showed that Kempson had been, as I quoted earlier, affected by various traumatic influences. I don't know that that determined in any way the prison sentence that the judge gave Kempson, and I fancy it didn't. But apart from 17 years in prison, Kempson's sentence being, in my view, unduly lenient, that sentence also covers Kempson for his convictions against his 2 other victims. The 11.5 years that he got for the 9 convictions concerned are running concurrently to his 17 years. To me, that just isn't fair to Grace. If this video has gripped you, I recommend you to watch this one next. I'll meet you there.
Police! Hello there.
Hello, how are you?
Yeah, good. There's no answer. Sorry, what's your name?
Sorry, we're asleep.
Are you Jemma?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, Jemma. Just could you hold a second?
Sure.
Come on a second.
Sorry, could I
Jemma, do you want to come up?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, just want to see them.
Hand, just see your hands. Alright, Jemma, at this moment, I'm arresting you on suspicion of murder. Okay, you don't have to say anything, but you may have a defence, do not mention one question, something which you later rely on court. Anything you do say may be given evidence, okay? Once we're in the cuffs.
Am I allowed to...
I'll go explain everything to you. Okay?
Should I get some
Yeah,
shoes
sorry.
now?
What?
If you want to one sec.
Inside?
Who's inside at the moment?
Mother.
Your mother?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it?
If you want to... Oh, can someone lift that up?
Yeah. Let's step back inside.
Is anyone else inside? Just your mum?
Yeah.
There is someone else inside,
No,
or just your
that's
mum?
just my mum, yeah.
Alright, do you want to...
The polite, softly spoken woman whose arrest for murder you've just watched, which, as you saw, included the woman's very courteous semi-greeting, semi-question to the arresting officers, as if that was going to nudge them to let her off or something, is 36-year-old osteopath and single mother Jemma Mitchell, who, on the 11th of June 2021, took the life of her dear friend and fellow Christian 67-year-old Deborah Chuen to get her hands on Deborah's £700,000 fortune. Now viewer, if I've got you hooked on the story so far, do subscribe, give the video a like, drop a comment when you're ready and donate. Hit the thanks button below, I'll appreciate you. Deborah Chuen, whose true name was Mi Chuen Kong, had come all the way over from Malaysia to Wembley, northwest London, 30 years before with her husband. Through property investments, Deborah had built up a considerable level of wealth. Frequently posting Christian messages on her social media accounts, Deborah had both the respect and the goodwill of many people around her, since she often helped out those in need, and I believe that her help was of the monetary kind. However, having long since been widowed, she became known to do things like writing letters to high-profile figures like the Prime Minister, who at the time was Boris Johnson, and to Prince Charles, the latter public figure often being an imaginary dinner guest of Deborah's. She used to set the table for him. Deborah suffered, you see, from paranoid schizophrenia. While she was on antipsychotic medication to manage the condition, she was, as you've probably guessed, an extremely vulnerable person, and remember, she was 67. At a church event held in the summer of 2012, Deborah found herself clicking with a young woman also from North London, in fact from Bondsbury, which isn't very far from Wembley at all, to whom she had been introduced. The woman, an osteopath by profession, was called Jemma Mitchell. As Deborah was learning, Jemma regularly posted Christian apologetics online in keeping with her staunch Christian faith. It wasn't long before the two women, united in particular by their commitment to Christianity, became very, very close friends. Born in Australia, but having been brought to England by her family at the age of 2, Jemma had had a private education before going to university to study human sciences, graduating with her degree in 2004. In 2015, Jemma found herself living in her long dilapidated family home in Brondesbury, having spent the 7 years before this point working as an osteopath over in Australia, and having since learned, very sadly, that on account of her not being registered with the General Osteopathic Council of the UK, she couldn't work as an osteopath here in England. I don't know for sure why Jemma didn't register with the said council, but if I had to guess, I'd say that it was because her qualifications in her field weren't recognised over here. I might be wrong, of course, and who knows. I'll tell you this though, while Jemma's family home was basically in ruins, it was no less worth all of £4.6 million. That's well over $5 million if you're watching me in a place where people use US dollars. Jemma occupied the converted garage apartment while her mother and sister had the main floor to themselves, and all three women were promptly conned out of the sum of £230,000 by the two rogue contractors that they had engaged to do the place up. The thing is, having apparently promised Jemma a gift of £200,000 for the refurbishment of her home, Deborah subsequently retracted this promise and got to the point where, following prolonged pestering from Jemma, she ordered Jemma to keep away from her until she had sold her home, which, to remind you, was worth well over £4 million, over $5 million, in order to answer her money problems. Selling her home, you see, is what Deborah had advised Jemma to do when she, Deborah that is, retracted her promise of the £200,000. Now, no fewer than 3 days after Deborah basically sent Jemma packing, Deborah's lodger called the police to report Deborah missing. The bloke related that he hadn't seen his landlady since the previous evening, but that her glasses and her phone were still at home. When the lodger contacted Jemma, who he knew to be a close friend of Deborah's, Jemma chose, funnily enough, not to say, "Oh, I've killed her and cut her head off, and now I'm in the process of planning how and where to dump her body, for which I will probably use my recently deceased neighbour's phone, which I nicked from his flat, you know, to book the hire car that I'll most likely be booking. And hey, I'd better not get a flat tyre on any part of the journey in case the repairman smells the rotting corpse in the boot and later testifies against me in court." Sorry. After a year of planning her return to her home country to visit her family and to get better in some way, Deborah had indeed just left for Malaysia. This is what Jemma told the lodger, who didn't believe her for a minute. More importantly, after looking into this story of Jemma's, which they naturally did in the process of their initial investigation into Deborah's disappearance, neither did the police. Officers rapidly discovered, of course, that no activity had been recorded on Deborah's passport, there'd been no sightings of Deborah leaving her house, none of the local taxi companies had served Deborah on the date of her disappearance, and there had been no non-automatic activity in Deborah's bank accounts. On the 6th of July 2021, however, Jemma took to answering the new probes that she was facing from the police, not with the said cock and bull story from before, but rather with no comment. The family who, while out walking their dog on June the 27th in Salcombe, all the way down in Devon, southwest England, some 200 miles away from Wembley, discovered Deborah's body, you understand, hadn't hesitated to report it.
Emergency. Hi, I just found a body. Oh, go ahead, caller. What's your emergency? I just found a body. Right, okay. A body, is it... Are they breathing?
No, they're dead. They look like they've possibly been there like a few days or something. There's some flies and stuff.
Right, okay. Bear with me a second. Let's pop this on.
What's the road?
Yeah, what road are you on?
I'm in Salcombe.
You're in Salcombe, sorry. Let me have a look. I can populate, hopefully, where you are. So, Bennett Road, are you quite near the harbour?
We're up from North Sands Beach. Hang on, just a quick Google map.
Oh, okay, yeah, so I can see North Sands Bay.
Road.
Bennett Road, yeah, you are on Bennett Road.
The body was headless. On this point, police noted in particular, on arriving at the scene, how clean the skin around the victim's neck was. The head had clearly been removed then with precision and skill. Now, you don't get that sort of cut from an amateur or from the biting and tearing done by animals, say, in case the murder suspect, whoever it would turn out to be, would allege that that is what had caused the victim's death, meaning that the suspect, him or herself, had no case to answer. You get it from a graduate of human sciences who often boasts online, no less, of her skills in human dissection. At uni, students of medicine and of human sciences get to practice this skill on the bodies of people who have donated their bodies to research. When 4 days later, meaning July the 1st, 2021, Deborah's head was found, and it wasn't very far from the body, a fracture was discovered in the skull. Notwithstanding, given how decomposed the body was at this point, Deborah having been killed 20 days before, Deborah's cause of death couldn't be determined. Now, there was CCTV showing Jemma leaving her home at 6:15 a.m. on the 11th of June 2021, rolling a blue suitcase and a black backpack, the two things seeming very light, not causing Jemma any sort of struggle or tiredness that anyone could note. CCTV also shows Jemma 25 minutes later in a change of clothes, don't know where she got changed, and with both a hat and a face covering on, and it showed her putting the backpack inside the suitcase. She walks in the direction of Deborah's home. At 7:56 a.m, the point at which Jemma is more or less on Deborah's doorstep, surveillance cameras show Jemma with her hat removed, but of course still wheeling the suitcase and still wearing the face mask. It's between now and 12:59 p.m. the same day that Jemma murders Deborah. However, she does it because, as I say, Deborah's cause of death couldn't be determined, since 12:59 p.m. is when Jemma is next captured on CCTV, and at that point she's just outside Deborah's home. She's now lugging the suitcase and the backpack separately, only this time they seem to be rather heavy, if not extremely heavy. No idea what's in the backpack, but the suitcase contains a dead body. 15 days later, meaning the 26th of June 2021, street cameras capture Jemma loading the suitcase into a Volvo SUV, which, as I hinted earlier, Jemma booked using the phone that she had stolen from a neighbour of hers who had recently died. So even before she does the horrendous thing to Deborah that she actually does, it's not as if she's been a goody two-shoes. She's, got something of a track record for dishonesty, and I'll say a bit more about that later. There is CCTV showing the same Volvo 3 to 4 hours later driving through Bennett Road in Salcombe in the direction of the wooded area where Deborah's body was found. I don't think it was inappropriate of me to have laughed at Jemma when I learned that on her way back to London, she got the shits when she had to let a repairman access her car in order to remedy the flat tyre that she had got. The guy did the repair at the service station that Jemma had had to stop off at. Lee Garden, the repairman, recounted that Jemma had seemed markedly distracted and confused. In other words, she had the shits, but yet that she had had the presence of mind to order him not to open the boot of her car and to leave the flat tyre, which he was changing, with her. What Mr. Garden described as a strange, musty smell coming from the car was, without his realising it, the smell of death itself. In their search of Jemma's home, which they performed shortly after arresting Jemma, police found Deborah's will, which left 95% of her money, whose amount was £700,000, to Jemma, while leaving the remaining 5% to none other than Jemma's mother. And yes, of course the will was a blatant forgery created by Jemma. I'll tell you now that I haven't been able to find out any details of any children that Deborah may have had, or any other relatives that, would have been the ones to have expected to inherit from Deborah at the time of her death. In her police interview following her arrest, Jemma offered none of the courtesy and casualness that she had shown earlier when she opened her door to the police. In the clip that you're about to see, the last time we hear her answer, she actually sounds quite irritated, as if she felt that she was being wronged in some way. Just listen.
And they've said that the person driving the Volvo waited in the car all that time with the windows down and the front door open, the passenger door open, when it was literally chucking it down with rain and it was windy. Why is that, Jemma?
No comment.
The car stank, didn't it, Jemma?
No comment.
Stunk of a dead person.
No comment.
Stunk of Deborah's decomposing body. Is that right, Jemma?
No comment.
To sum up everything that was wrong with what Jemma did to Deborah, I honestly can't do any better than the judge of Jemma's trial, which took place in October 2022.
You are now 38 years of age. You have one minor previous conviction for breach of a non-molestation order, which arose in a domestic context. I propose to ignore that and to treat you as a woman of effective previous good character. That large suitcase contained Deborah Chong's body. I have no doubt that you had killed her whilst you were at her house. And, absent any explanation from you, given that you went no comment throughout your police interviews and did not go into the witness box, I am driven to the conclusion that you went to her house that morning with that intention in mind. As to aggravating features, there are the following. Firstly, the amount of planning and premeditation that went into this offence, although it is right to acknowledge that this is bound to be an invariable feature of a killing done for gain, and I must avoid double counting in that regard. Secondly, there is the issue of Deborah's mental and physical vulnerability, to which I have already referred, and of which you were very well aware. Thirdly, there is the chilling aspect of what you did to and with her body after you had killed her. You have shown absolutely no remorse, and it appears that you are in complete denial as to what you did, notwithstanding what, in my judgment, amounted to overwhelming evidence against you. The enormity of your crime is profoundly shocking, even more so given your apparent religious devotion, as well as the fact that Deborah Chong was a good friend to you and had shown you great kindness. The sentence of the court is one of life imprisonment, and the minimum term of imprisonment that you will in any event be required to serve will be 34 years. There will be deducted from that term the 475 days that you have spent in custody on remand.
Poor Deborah. As the judge said, and as we can all see for ourselves, she 100% didn't deserve what that greedy, evil bastard Jemma Mitchell did to her. Speaking of greed and evil, since Jemma's conviction, some of the woman's former friends have spoken up about Jemma's habit of stealing not just their money, but also their lovers. If this video has gripped you, I recommend you to watch this one next. I'll meet you there.